The news broke quietly, barely a ripple in the headlines. British retirees, once drawn to Spain's sunny shores, were now quietly leaving for the Philippines. For decades, Spain was the dream. Endless sunshine, affordable living, a reward for a lifetime of work. But beneath the postcard-perfect life, something was missing. A small but growing number were trading comfort for connection, seeking a sense of belonging that Spain's expat bubbles couldn't provide. Peter and Margaret were the poster couple for the Spanish dream. Villa, pension, year-round tan. Yet what they wanted and what they needed were not the same. Why leave paradise? Spain had first-world comforts, a familiar community. The Philippines was a world away, chaotic, humid, unfamiliar. The move seemed illogical, but for Peter and Margaret, it was a step towards something real. They left a life that looked good on paper for one that felt good in the soul. This is their story, a journey from comfort to connection. It's about the difference between living well and living fully. From their pristine villa in Spain to the warm embrace of a Filipino community, their journey challenges what we think retirement should be. Sometimes, the greatest adventure isn't about a new place, but about finding where you truly belong. Their journey began not with a flight, but with a realization, and it changed everything. Peter and Margaret arrived in Mijas, Spain, full of hope. After decades in rainy Manchester, they bought a villa with a pool and a view. Life was a postcard. Clean air, cheap wine, endless blue skies. Their days were predictable. Breakfast on the terrace, gardening, book clubs, walks by the sea. Social life revolved around other British expats. Dinner parties, quiz nights, Sunday roasts. They were surrounded by people, yet meaningful connection was elusive. Their interactions felt transactional, a way to pass time. They lived in Spain, but not a Spanish life, just a British bubble under the sun. The beauty was undeniable, but the routine became monotonous. The peace of their villa started to feel like silence. They had comfort, security, and peace. But a quiet unease crept in. The perfect weather became dull, the villa a gilded cage. They realized the door had always been open. They just didn't know where to go. Comfort, they discovered, wasn't enough. Something vital was missing, and they couldn't ignore it any longer. Comfort did not equal happiness. Peter missed the camaraderie of work. Margaret missed being needed. Book clubs and gardening filled time, but not their hearts. Loneliness crept in during the quiet moments. Silent car rides, empty guest rooms, video calls with family. Peter fixed things around the house, but there was no one to share the small victories with. Margaret cared for a neighbor's cat, briefly feeling like her old self, but the silence returned. Their villa became a fortress of isolation. They watched their grandchildren grow up through screens, spectators instead of participants. The Spanish dream delivered comfort, but at the cost of relevance and connection. They had escaped stress, but found themselves adrift. The beauty of their surroundings only highlighted the emptiness inside. They longed for purpose, for belonging, for life beyond the walls. Everything changed at the Feria de San Miguel in Torremolinos. The festival was alive, families, laughter, music, generations together. Peter and Margaret wandered the crowds, feeling invisible. They watched as locals shared food, danced, and celebrated as one. The sense of belonging was palpable, and they were on the outside looking in. Margaret watched a grandmother teach her granddaughter to dance and felt a deep ache for her own family. They left early, the festival's joy highlighting their own isolation. The drive home was silent, but filled with unspoken realization. The Spanish dream was no longer enough. They needed more than comfort. They needed community. That night, Peter finally said aloud, "This isn't working, is it?" It was the start of a brave decision. They were ready to trade comfort for connection. And so, the search for a true home began. The idea of the Philippines came from an old friend's emails. Stories not of beaches, but of people, family, and community. It sounded chaotic, but alive. The decision was daunting. New culture, new risks, far from everything familiar. Their children worried. Margaret worried. But the alternative, staying in their lonely villa, felt worse. So, they took the leap. Arrival in the Philippines was a shock, heat, noise, crowds, and color. The market was an adventure, the streets a symphony of chaos. But the welcome was immediate. Neighbors brought mangoes, children peeked over fences, strangers greeted them warmly. In Spain, they'd barely known their neighbors. Here, they felt seen. The welcome was spontaneous and genuine. It was a world away from their old life. The chaos was overwhelming, but the warmth was undeniable. It was the beginning of a new chapter. They had left comfort behind, but found something far richer. They were finally part of something real. In Spain, life was scheduled. Barbecues planned weeks ahead, friendships maintained by appointment. The clock ruled everything. In the Philippines, time was fluid. An ordinary afternoon could become a street party. A neighbor's catch meant an impromptu barbecue for all. Invitations were casual. Come, let's eat. Life happened, not scheduled. Community meant family, not just a network for favors. If someone was sick, food arrived unasked. Celebrations were for everyone. In Spain, they were outsiders. In the Philippines, the community pulled them in. People asked about their lives, not just small talk, but real curiosity. Peter and Margaret were no longer observers. They were invited to join the dance. The serenity of Spain was replaced by vibrant, messy, beautiful chaos. They found themselves woven into the daily life of the neighborhood. For the first time in years, they felt truly alive. Peter adapted quickly, but Margaret struggled. The noise, the lack of privacy, the unfamiliar food, it was overwhelming. She missed the order of Spain, the comfort of her old friends. She felt anxious, unsure, and out of place, but kindness broke through her hesitation. A neighbor brought her soup when she was down, calling her Tita, Auntie. Small gestures, smiles, and the children's drawings slowly melted her anxiety. She realized the community wasn't invading her privacy. They were curing her loneliness. Margaret began to accept invitations, to chat on porches, to share in the laughter. Even with limited language, kindness spoke volumes. The children greeted her by name, and she felt seen. She was no longer a stranger, but a Tita to be loved. The warmth of the community became her comfort. Margaret found her place, not by retreating, but by opening her heart. In the Philippines, names mean belonging. Peter became Tito Peter, Margaret became Lola Margaret. They were no longer just foreign neighbors, they were family. Peter was asked for advice, joined morning coffee with the men, helped build fences. Margaret became Lola, grandmother to the neighborhood kids. She baked cookies, taught baking, and offered comfort. Their home filled with laughter and purpose. They attended baptisms, birthdays, even funerals, not as guests, but as family. The titles Tito, Tita, and Lola were more than words. They were a confirmation of belonging. They had left isolation for inclusion. They were needed, loved, and woven into the fabric of daily life. The connection they'd longed for was finally real. They had found a new family in the most unexpected place. Moving to the Philippines didn't mean abandoning family in the UK. Visits became longer, richer. Grandchildren played with local kids, everyone immersed in the vibrant community. Their son, once skeptical, saw his parents transformed, engaged, joyful, alive. Video calls were now filled with stories of shared meals and community events. Peter and Margaret were no longer spectators, but participants in life. Their journey redefined home, not a place, but a feeling of belonging. Home was being seen, needed, and loved. Their Spanish villa was a house. Their Filipino home was truly a home. They chose connection over comfort, purpose over predictability. The greatest luxury wasn't a perfect view, but a life rich in relationships. Their story is a reminder. True happiness is found in vibrant connection and purpose. They left a paradise of solitude to find a paradise of the heart. They didn't just move, they finally came home.